Every founder has a product they believe in. Not every founder knows how to sell it. Wired to Scale is the show that closes that gap. Real conversations with the founders, operators, and revenue leaders who figured it out. Hosted by Zoya Segelbacher. Brought to you by Uncapped.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Wired to Scale, the podcast where we sit down with founders and operators building the future, scaling businesses, and bringing unique products to market. I'm your host, Zoya Segelbacher, and today I'm really excited to sit down with our founder, Sandra Cai, founder of Plurall AI, a cutting-edge cybersecurity startup using AI to detect deepfakes in real time. With fraud attempts skyrocketing over 3,000% and the average deepfake attack costing companies over $500,000, Sandra is on a mission to help organizations fight back. Sandra, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Hi, everyone. I'm Sandra and founder of Plurall. And exactly like I said, we're trying to detect deepfake and fraud for businesses, helping them restore their reputation and brand and identity.
I love that. Let's start with kind of like an origins story question. We'll get into like all of what you do, the market, those types of things. But you built a profitable startup all the way back in high school, before you even graduated. Can you tell us a little bit about what inspired you so young and what made you take that first leap into entrepreneurship?
Yeah, for sure. So that was really my first entrepreneurial practice when I was in high school. Before I graduated, I was deeply, deeply fond of, accelerators like Y Combinator. I was doing a lot of research. How I wanted to do something on my own is because my parents, they were both founders, and I grew up in just factories and meeting their clients and witnessing how they did deals with those people. And also, right around the age of 6, I was kind of like passively involved in a deal closing by my mom. My mom was trying to close a client. The client was in our house, and they were just sitting right in the living room. And I was bold enough to talk to the client and managing to eventually help my mom close the deal eventually. And still to this day, that client is still complimenting me when I was 6. So after that kind of incident, I just realized, maybe I can do something on my own. So over the course of high school, I was always a black sheep. I have an older brother. He's also the very, very good student. I mean, I was also an okay student. I was always in the advanced class in terms of in terms of the grade and ranking and all that kind of stuff. However, I just don't really feel I don't feel fulfilled or content about just kind of like a normal classroom, just doing assignments and going to exams and all that kind of stuff. So I was thinking, what can I do just as a teenager, as right around 16, 17 years old. So at that time, I was pretty lucky. I was always the dumbest in the room, and I knew a lot of my peers are way smart than me. So I basically built this consulting platform in terms of matchmaking people who want to, let's say, go to Harvard, but they're right now a high schooler. And if I manage to know somebody in Harvard, I can just basically matchmake and pair them up together and kind of, and then me as the platform, I charge the consultancy and consulting hour out of the consultants for the mentors in the platform. So it was profitable from day one because I was very active in terms of blogging, the things that I've learned, all that kind of stuff ever since the age of 14 when I first touched social media. So that grew an audience of 8,000 people, and I just basically marketed it through that channel of 8,000 community people that I built on the specific platform, and they preferred to kind of sign up and pay for the service from day one. So that was really the first entrepreneurial practice that I had, and I thought starting a business is pretty easy, but it was definitely not the case. So that really kind of opened up the window for me to think broadly and think globally about what I can do in terms of not just about the local high school or the local community that I was in, but also maybe helping more important initiatives in the world that I can, use my skills in my warehouse to really contribute. So yeah, so that was the first business I did.
I love that. I love how even at that age, you were able to think of a problem that needed to be solved, right? You're like, okay, I'm in high school. I have peers in high school. They're interested in connecting with mentors who are like where they want to be or at the universities they want to be. And you were able to take that concept from like challenge to product at 14. That's really remarkable. Um, I would love to circle back on your comment about you thought it was really easy, but now, like a couple of years later, a couple of projects later, companies later, you have some more insight. So I want to come back to that. Before we get into what you're doing now, I have one more kind of like history type question, your personal history. So, um, you immigrated to the US from China. You speak 3 languages? Is that right?
Well, I actually speak more than that, but fluently or daily, yeah, I'll switch. Daily, I use average 4 languages, and also I speak some dialects in China too. So yeah.
Amazing. How has that shaped the way that you think about building products or building community?
Right. I'm pretty privileged, I would say. I'm privileged in terms of language is never an issue for me from the moment that I was born because my parents, especially my mother, was very aware of tuning in linguistic talent. And I managed to basically my first word was actually in English, and then I was taught Mandarin and then Cantonese and a couple of dialects from my father's side, and then yeah, just kind of drew by interest. I was pretty much drawn by an interest, and I learned Korean and Japanese, and then Italian, and then French. So yeah, and I practice them every day. And I would say just speaking multiple different languages and also just talking to different people coming from different walks of life, it's just really, really eye-opening for me because I have the privilege to understand things beyond, the translator, things beyond just kind of the words they're speaking, but also understand the culture behind the scene, like the culture of why are they thinking this way from their perspective, given their background. So yeah, it really gives me an edge of understanding people around the world. And if I want to help people around the world in terms of creating a global businesses or a company that can really help a global important critical initiative, then definitely I have to understand different people's perspective from coming from countries, backgrounds, cultures, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm pretty privileged to be able to have that skill and maybe a talent a little bit in terms of just language speaking and also understanding the cultures and perspectives from a very diverse angle. So I would say it really helps me and it really shapes how I think about a lot of things, a lot of problems, a lot of scenarios, and it also kind of gives me different voices to think about whenever I'm reflecting on a specific problem, question, or even try to create or invent something. Like I will also invite different perspectives. I will try to divide myself into okay, if Sandra is from Korea, if Sandra is from Japan, if Sandra is from maybe another country, what would I think about this problem?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great perspective to be able to tap into or multiple perspectives. Okay. Getting into Plurall, let's talk a little bit about what inspired that. Why that problem? How big is that problem? And then we can kind of go from there.
Yeah. So pretty ironically, so 2 years back I was watching a conference that was broadcast like nationwide. It was called Washington Life Codes, and it was hosted in DC Capitol Hill. And there's a company I won't name them, but they were asked to demo their product, and they were doing exactly what we're doing right now, trying to detect deepfake using what they have in house. I'm not sure if they're doing proprietary stuff, but it's just basically they asked to demo their products and demo their failure state. So that was when I realized, oh, like if a company that's been them to take it to a capital meeting and yet they're demoing their failure state, is there anything that I can do to help make it better? So I decided to really dive into the vertical and do a lot of research. And after high school, I was working for Microsoft a little bit as their research person, and that's where I kind of discovered the problem with deepfake. And then at that meeting hosted in Capitol Hill, sort of solidify it. And then I dug a lot of depth into the vertical, realizing as a huge problem. So globally, we're talking $40 billion in terms of photos market, and it's sitting right at the core of the $250 billion cybersecurity problem. And year over year, according to by Deloitte, by the end of next year, we're gonna have at least $70 billion dollar of global financial loss projected by this problem. And right now, so far, by the end of last year, companies are already losing $12 billion life just because of the deepfake problem alone. So you have companies in Hong Kong and Asia experiencing there's a deepfake CFO joining their internal business meetings, spreading misinformation, disinformation, asking to wire money to an offshore unknown account. And if your CFO is asking you to do things, I'm sure you're not going to say no. So that company ended up losing $25 million. And there you also have, blockchain companies that are operating on blockchain or in crypto areas. They also have tremendous amount of financial losses because of deepfake or face swapped important person in their internal organization. So it's a very consequential problem, and it's a really huge problem to solve in terms of how we're going to manage you. So that's why I happen to, I'm an engineer by training, wrote my first Sonic code right around the age of 15. So I understand what's going on in terms of problem. And the more research that I did, the more that I realized, oh, actually, there's some skills that are pretty much aligned and overlap in terms of what I know that I can do in the AI space and the machine learning. And also, given the people that I know, I can also a lot of direct questions about how can I solve this problem in a more from a technical way without using or being dependent on a lot of existing AI tools that are out there, like most of the companies that kind of do in that way. So that's where the inspiration came. Right around, when I realized, okay, maybe the top of the pyramid of the solution, the vendors out there, they're not really doing well. So why don't I step in and help as much as I can and see how far I can go? And so far it's been pretty much a very good journey. So that's why, we're working on this together.
Yeah, I love that. I think you touched on a lot right there. One area that I think is interesting, I think a lot of people think of deepfakes as like a consumer problem or like maybe even like a political problem, but you touched on the fact that it is like actually a B2B problem. There are companies losing or spending, I guess. Maybe let's like dig in there. Losing money, but also spending money to protect themselves against deepfakes. You gave one example of like an impersonation of like a CFO. What's the most absurd B2B like story you can tell us about a deepfake?
Yeah, so there's a crypto company that lost $25 billion just because of the deepfake problem. And I would just kind of broad, categorize them as a blockchain company, and they're in the Web3 space. And in the Web3 space, by nature of the industry, it's pretty zero trust if you ask anyone who's working or who's a consumer of the Web3 space. So given that already there isn't much trust kind of built into the business, they are pretty much in their DNA. They're pretty trust sensitive. They're very aware of all those kind of scams that are going on. Yet they are probably one of the biggest victims in terms of financial losses in front of deepfake. So that's how dangerous this problem can be. Those bad actors, they're going to utilize a lot of generative AI tools to just create and face swap and identities to really just infiltrate into the employees' emails or login credentials and join their internal business meetings and just kind of go from there. So that company in Asia lost a lot of money, and this is what we're talking, right? The cost of the problem is really, it can really be avoided if you have something in place preventatively before that even happens. So for a lot of companies that we're talking to right now, some of them, they perceive this as immediate risk, and they want to, okay, I want this solution right now, and tell me how can I send me the retainer, we're going to hop on it, we're going to test the models that you have and all that kind of stuff. And some of the outer companies, they're pretty much just kind of, they understand the problem, but they don't think this as an immediate risk, basically because their kind of argument is basically that Oh, wait, we haven't had this yet. Well, but because of that yet, I want to emphasize that yet. You don't want to until it's basically, you don't want until you don't want to wait until you have the cancer to go to the doctor. You want it pretty much okay, to go to the doctor regularly and ordinarily, and just basically have the doctor's advice on, okay, maybe I need to eat well, I need to sleep well to avoid getting cancer, as opposed to, okay, I have cancer now, and now I need to have some remedies about that. So yes, so this is definitely 100% what you said. A lot of people think that, oh, this is a 100% consumer problem, but companies, they are hugely and severely experiencing this in a very quiet way. Because if a company is experiencing a deepfake problem and they lost financial, actual, operating cash flow, or actual money on that, they will want it to not let a lot of people know, as opposed to maybe an individual. Okay, yeah, like, I got defaked, or my grandparent got defaked. Then I want to make sure everyone that I know, they know, what's going on and all that kind of stuff. So really, the order of magnitude and also the level of severity happens more often than not in the corporate space. And most of the companies, they're still, they need to understand, the urgency of having that guardrail put on and built in your existing workflow, as opposed to when that happens and then finding a solution like this.
Yeah. Yeah. Really interesting. And that's a good point that you make, that they're not going to share necessarily in the same way that, a consumer would tell everybody. Going back to something you had mentioned earlier, you said, you had such success with your company in high school. You were like, being a founder's easy. You said with, experience, maybe you might not say that. What are some of the challenges that you faced along the journey that you've overcome? Or maybe even some challenges, if you can share, that you're still thinking through, especially as it relates to go to market.
Yeah, for sure. So the first business, I did a lot of reflection on that. Definitely want to, take that back. Founding a business is not easy, not easy. So yeah. So the reason why I had that kind of thought is because I got pretty lucky in terms of, because I first built the distributed channel of that 3,000 people community. Then I hop onto that and leverage that community by marketing the business that I was doing at the time. So it's not that, oh, if I build, they'll come naturally, and it wasn't the case. I was more so, okay, I had the community first, and then I did the go to market and also distribution through that channel specifically and heavily, that I was able to harvest a lot of kind of other things will come to fruition because of that. So right now, in terms of Plurall AI, what we are thinking in terms of go to market is definitely, how can we reach to where our clients are handing out, right? Because right now we talk to primarily CISOs, CIOs, and compliance people in different organizations. So where are they? What are they talking about? What are they thinking about? What is their KPI? And where do they hand out online? So we want to really reach that audience by first letting them understand this is a problem, and second, if they have any kind of regulatory policies or any KPIs from top down, that we want to definitely help them fulfill their KPI. And also third, helping them understand they need this solution before the problem occurs, is more important and more cost effective than finding a solution after the disaster happens. So yes, really, we want to help those people succeed. People, CISOs, CIOs, and compliance people in their organization succeed, so their organization could succeed because of their success. And us as the vendor solution, supporting, empowering the overall AI infrastructure on the cybersecurity end, especially on the vertical of deepfake detection and also the fraud detection potentially, is really kind of where we want to honing in, double down on, and yeah, like, back to go to market. It's never easy, right? Like, and you need to constantly put your maybe thought leadership, your tech blogs, or maybe doing podcasts like these, and also really joining events, online, offline, to spread the awareness and also, again, reach the audience, and then like demo your solutions and all that, and kind of do some aftercare. So So yeah, but what we're doing and what we're thinking about is pretty similar to maybe other most of the companies or founders are thinking about is how to reach your audience effectively and how to generate leads and how to effectively convert those leads based on your target audience and their target problem to actual paid retainers, actual paid invoices, and maintain the relationship from there, and hopefully they can be retained as return customers. And you could be, that's how you build like a long term, at least how I think about it, a long term business. So
Yeah. Yeah. And you've been operating for about 2 years, right?
right, yeah.
What's like one assumption that you had going in that maybe you've changed? Like, I feel like being a founder, a lot of it is like coming up with a hypothesis, testing it, pivoting quickly. What's an example of one of those times?
Yeah. So I would say I would share the first thing jumps into my mind is definitely about hiring. It's never easy to hire the right people, and hiring the right people is crucial to your business. So I certainly made a lot of mistakes in terms of hiring and a lot of kind of operational mistakes as well. So based on my reflection, what I've learned is sometimes the best skilled person isn't the best employee that you will want, because maybe they have different style of working, maybe they have a different mindset, maybe they're in the business for the wrong reasons, and maybe they're just not aligned with the bigger mission and vision that you have. So I right now I'm more so go for kind of my style of hiring is by the way, we are hiring, and in the meantime, my style of hiring is really I want to make sure that we're gonna work with each other well. So instead of doing just kind of the traditional in person or virtual interviews, I'm also conduct an in person mini hackathon with them 1-on-1, so that I know, okay, what are you gonna build and how are you gonna communicate with me, and it's also kind of like a mock real world scenario of how you're going to communicate with the clients if I put you in front of them and all that kind of stuff. So it's more so kind of like a mini hackathon form of hiring and evaluating talents other than the traditional kind of just questioning based answering type of interview. So so definitely hiring is something that I've realized that I definitely need to strengthen the more muscle on. And in terms of operation, I would say really find your allies early and clearly, not only the customers are trying to get, but also the in-house allies, including your legal counsel, your accountant, and your tax person, and any of that kind of maybe advisors at the same time. You want to support them out first, and to really just make sure that your backyard is properly taken care of, so that you can just put out of your foot on the gas and to really get customers and go from there. So kind of like maybe digress a little bit, but the surprising finding that I've had operating for 2 years in Plurall is that you never want to make any assumption about customers, because you don't want to put words in your customer's mouth. Sometimes maybe they don't perceive what you're exactly pitching them as a risk, or they want to put down money to solve. But also, but in the meantime, they might thinking about a different narrative or a different kind of description about the same problem they were pitching them, because the different choice of words, the different vocabulary that you have, and maybe the narrative or value weighing that you're putting on the same problem, you would think that, oh, they don't value your problem right now, or they don't value a solution right now, and the vendor and the customer will think that you're not kind of exactly providing what they want. But it's actually really kind of like an error in communication, is part of the human error. So how to address that is to never make any assumption that, oh, I think they would or they could think this is important to them, so they would or could put down this much money on the solution that I'm providing. More so, just do 80% of the time. Just do listening. Just don't speak too much. Don't over pitch yourself, and don't kind of never come off as a sales, a strong sales, trying to kind of supplement anything. So that is really something that I've learned. Coming into the business, I was thinking, okay, I need to have all of the perfect assumptions about the target audience that I have, the ICP, the ideal customers, and also the kind of the funnel that we're working with. But really, you never want to put any assumption about the customers, especially when you never know what they can bring to you in terms of fresh perspectives, and also how you can maybe perfect your pitch to really meet them where they are, especially when you're thinking about the same thing.
Yeah. I think one of my favorite things about having conversations with founders, especially like technical founders, is when I hear you all like reference like selling like knowledge that I come from a sales background that like we would have in sales, right? So like I'm always telling my team, um, when you get an objection, we call it like objection handling, right? But that's not really the right way to think of it. You're not trying to like convince anyone of anything. You have your own thoughts. You're like, well, I did my research. I feel like I have some type of hypothesis on the problem they might have. It feels like our solution might solve the challenge, but in the conversation, if the prospect is saying, no, no, that won't work, the best thing you can do is be curious, right? Because there's a gap. You're like, well, I came to you because I think maybe there's alignment, and they're saying, no, there isn't. The best response is to say, okay, tell me more about that gap. Kind of what you're saying, right? You're saying it's like a gap in communication or a gap in information. Sometimes you find out more and you're like, oh, you're right. There is no alignment. But a lot of the time when you respond to objections with curiosity and with more questions, you just get more information to like make the whole picture make sense. And sometimes when the picture makes sense, you're like, oh, okay, now I see what you're saying. Well, actually, I do believe there's still alignment. Let me show you. And it's so fun to hear you all say that, right, in your own words with your own experience. I notice a lot of like founder led or like technical founders come to very similar conclusions that we talk about a lot, like in the sales field. So I always think that's interesting.
Yep.
Something else that I wanted to cover. I know you've worked with a lot of accelerators in the past, NYU Accelerator, a handful of others. What were some of those accelerators, and what's your feedback on them, or what's your take on joining these accelerators for maybe another founder?
Yeah, so the first accelerator that we did was in locally in New York. It was a kind of female centric accelerator, and I love the host. Her name is Alex, and so that was the first accelerator we did. And then we, especially I, didn't anticipate that we could have gotten a lot of value out of an accelerator, because we were thinking. I also was basically thinking, oh, an accelerator is basically telling you a lot of what you need to know as a founder, knowledge based, kind of just kind of like a classroom based, just kind of knowledge sharing. But more importantly, why you want to join Accelerator is because the people that are there, the fellow founders are going to meet, the hosts are going to meet, and also the community that we're talking about, and you never know who knows whom, so who can, maybe like you're just two people away from the actual introduction that you want, or the actual person that you want to meet, or the clients that you want to get. So really, if you want to join an advisor, to the founders that are listening, or to the operators that are listening, to evaluate the people who are in that community already and who will be joining, who are also thinking of joining that same accelerator that you want to join. And do you want to hang out with them? Do you think that they're going to be valuable for you, and vice versa? And do you think that it's going to be a community that you definitely will not regret, say 2 years looking back on this? So if you're just in an accelerator for, let's say, the money, or it's just the simple knowledge, maybe AI can just help you with that, right? Like maybe AI can just kind of give you a spreadsheet of what you need to know as a founder, just kind of crawl the whole internet and give me back, just ask Claude or ask any AI tool that you use. You can maybe do that if you just want the knowledge. And if you want just money, take out the loan, right? Like use the business line of credit instead of giving your equity away. So really, I would say the biggest asset you could get out of an accelerator is really the people. And we also did the TechCrunch accelerator, which I did not have any expectation that we would get in, but we got in. And in that community, we also exhibited in the TechCrunch Disrupt conference in San Francisco a year back. And that's where we got more than 100 inbound leads. People were just kind of flushing into us instead of kind of us going out and trying to find clients and trying to tackle them. So really, the community is really what keeps you moving forward. And also we're doing kind of like a Jeopardy game in the TechCrunch Disrupt conference with another fellow company that are in the TechCrunch program, and they help us get have the leads that we have inbound because of that game. So So you really never know. So the people in there, the community, and also the founders, they're going to help you, and you're going to help them too. So yeah, so really thinking about accelerators in that way, as opposed to just, oh, okay, what am I getting out of it? It's just kind of like going to the program and trickling in, trickling out. Just taking notes on my notebook, but things are beyond that, right? Like if you think more broadly about at the people level, about the relationship level, about long-term benefits and all that kind of stuff, it really has a better outcome if you invest in long term, instead of just kind of thinking of, okay, short term wise, what can I get out of it?
Yeah, that's amazing advice. Network. We're coming up on the end. This is way off topic, but I did some sleuthing. Is it true that you're working on a music EP?
Oh, yeah, I appreciate the question. So yeah, I do different things. I mean, like I consider myself a person of hobbies, and I do have a lot of different things that I'm doing on the side, other than just kind of day to day my business. My business is definitely taking a lot of my time, but if I do have some kind of free time that I have in my hands, then I'll do some fun things, like just creating music, and also I'm shooting a documentary at the same time, and working with 53 people sign up globally from different parts of the world, and definitely want to work with them to shoot a documentary. And the music thing, I'm working with my friends to try to just create some music, and I'm running DJ on the side, and it's just basically, again, if you're doing things for your own happiness, or for just kind of like you just for some reason you want to do this thing, then just go do it. Because a lot of things that happen in my life, and especially things that are happening right now, I don't feel I'm not forced to do anything. Where no one forces me to, okay, Sandra, go create this business, go do cyber security, or go do AI, or go create music or something. No one tells me to do anything. I just basically also create goes to my parents. They never be in the way of any decision that I made for myself along the way. So yeah, like I discovered my interest in music, and also filming, and yeah, a lot of things, and I meet a lot of great people, a lot of great friends. Really admired them, so want to work with them on some things, definitely. So yeah, so back to the question. Yes, I'm trying to create a music EP and probably launch on Spotify. Who knows?
Yes, I love it. What a value-based life. Like, what a great way to make decisions for how you're going to spend your day, what you're going to do. You only get one life, right? So it's so amazing to hear that. I think that's, to be able to say no one's making me do anything, and to be doing such productive endeavors is really awesome. I think that is a fantastic way to close out. Before we close out, we'd love to just put it out there for anybody listening. If people are interested in getting in touch with you for Plurall or connections there, how can they get in touch? For anybody who's listening, I don't know if you caught it, but Plurall is hiring. What are instructions for folks who want to apply?
Yeah, for sure. I'm very easy to find. I'm on LinkedIn, Substack, and also have a Substack. And my email is Sandra@Plurall.tech, 2 L's at the end of Plurall. And also our email, our website is Plurall.ai, and also Plurall.tech too. And if you want to get additional information, you can just go to Plurall.info. So yeah, we're pretty visible online, and feel free to reach out if there's any questions, or if there's any feedback you want to give us, or if you want to, if you perceive the biggest problem, how to type it a talk in the meantime. So yeah, so just definitely feel free to shoot me a message if you want to reach out.
Awesome. Thanks for your time today, Sandra. It was great chatting with you.
Thank you, Zoya. Really appreciate that.